Just close down Safari. Hi
everyone, it's Jack here from Esports Live. Sorry to crash the podcast. A quick thank you to you all for all your support so far. We hope you like what you're hearing, even if our advice is absolute nonsense. Make sure you subscribe to our videocast on YouTube and Twitch channels, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or if you prefer the podcast, subscribe on Spotify and Apple. Search Esports Live now on any of the platforms to get involved. We've got some exciting things happening in the background. Get ready for the Euros and the Fantasy Premier League season 21-22. Get involved now, don't miss out, and enjoy the pod.
Fancy managers, welcome back to the FPL Addicts live weekly videocast and podcast. The international break is over, and with it, club football returns to once again ruin our weekends after a great international break from England, which all of us, except Statman Dave, is absolutely loving. A bit of a shorter one today, but hopefully we can fill it with a bit of good FPL advice for your game week 30 and beyond. We'll introduce our guests right from the off, and then we'll start with the returning man himself, the returning Statman, the return of the hero. It is Statman Dave. How are you, mate?
Thanks, Ollie. Going well.
Long time between drinks for you in this podcast. It's been a very long while, I think.
It has. I've been working hard for the money, and you guys keep wanting to record it during work hours, so it makes it a bit hard.
But you're back now, though, plugging away in draft, which I'm sure we might have a little gloss over later since you're here. And now we've got the two regulars alongside us. Matt Day is sunning himself off in Perth, so he's got a little video section on its way. But we've got Jack Gillibrand from Esports Live to supplement. I'm sure we can do a little draft guru section maybe on instead, just so we can get some good FPL advice in there. But Jack, how are you tracking, mate? All good?
Yeah, doing well, and good to have Statman Dave back on. He's went on a bit of a sabbatical, I think, for the last 15 game weeks, and did his research. He's been climbing up the ladder, so good to have you on, Dave. Keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Best be good advice if you've had that long to prepare it, but I suppose we'll see in the coming half an hour or so if the research has been put to good use. And of course, we've got the right-hand man from the Esports Live commentary box. It's Elliot Craig. Elliot, are you looking forward to football this weekend and the return of FPL?
Absolutely not, mate. I've never loved the international break more than this week, but yeah, excited for Newcastle to ruin my weekends once again. You know, it's a tradition this season. It's a tradition my whole life. So excited to get back into that one, mate.
I mean, Newcastle are playing Tottenham this weekend, which I'm sure we're going to get to. We're going to run through the fixtures in a moment. So perhaps a little bit of respite for you, considering Matt isn't here to absolutely rib you about it, but I'm sure he'll be back next week when you lose 5-0. But we'll have to see if that, of course, eventuates. But we will move on to the fixtures. We'll discuss each fixture and we'll pluck an FPL asset or two from each game. Starting, of course, the deadline is at 10 p.m. over here in Melbourne, Saturday night, as usual. And the game week starts with Chelsea hosting West Bromwich Albion at Stamford Bridge. So if we're looking for assets there, lads, I'm sure we're going to Chelsea rather than West Brom. I think one of the best assets for West Brom in Conor Gallagher will be ineligible to play this game. If we bring up the share screen, there we go. All the fixtures are up there, and we'll go to Chelsea. I reckon. I think Mason Mount for me is the asset. Did well for England over the international break, and I think he's my choice if we're looking for FPL assets. Jack, we'll throw this one over to you then. Who do you reckon from the opening game of the game week should we be looking towards?
Oh, can I not have Mason Mount?
I mean, you can, but we'll throw someone else in there.
Oh, God, Chelsea. I think, obviously, defensively, they've been obviously great, haven't they? I think, 9 or 10 clean sheets they've had under Tuchel, I think, or whatever he's called these days. So I think he's been here, 10, 12 games, 8 to 10 clean sheets. So if you want to back if you're not having Mason Mount, then defensive assets are obviously going to be good in there. Let's go, Who do I like in there? Who's been consistent? Rudiger has been playing it as well, hasn't he? Alonso's been bombing on forward, but he's been rotating a bit with Chilwell. Take a defensive asset. You choose one, guys. Definitely a defensive asset then, if not Mount.
Yeah, I think personally for me it would Christensen, Rudiger, or Azpilicueta are probably the three that are probably
Yeah.
more than likely nailed on to start. The fullbacks can often be quite shaky, but we know he likes to play the three at the back, and usually all three of them go up for set pieces, and they've been in good form recently. So I think any of those picks, the cheaper of the bunch, I think, is Rudiger. So he'd probably be my pick.
Yeah, Rudiger's in my team actually. That's why he came to mind. But I think they've been really solid, haven't they? And he's looked a lot better since he came back into the team after Lampard. He wasn't too much of a fan of him, was he?
No,
he wasn't. But definitely, I think food for thought in terms of the Blues. Definitely some defensive assets you can look towards because they have been very, very solid under Thomas Tuchel. Will that continue? I'd say probably. I think Chelsea are probably nailed on to win there and keep a clean sheet. So there's definitely a lot of players for Chelsea that you can look towards. So the 1 o'clock game there, as you can see on the screen, Leeds against Sheffield United. A bit of a Yorkshire derby going on here. Haven't had too many of those in the Premier League recent history, but we've got one here. Elliot, to throw over to you, can I have one from each side who you think might return in this FPL, or in this clash rather?
If I'm not mistaken, I think at Bramall Lane it was 1-0 earlier on in the season. Patrick Bamford with a late headed goal, I think. So I would go with Bamford from Leeds if he's fit to play. I'm pretty sure he is. He's had weeks rest now. Didn't do anything internationally. He's been training. So he would be mine from Leeds. And then from Sheffield United, oh God, it's difficult, isn't it? I'll probably go with someone like McGoldrick or McBurney. I'll go with McGoldrick because he's usually the one among the goals, but don't take Sheffield United assets. Go with the Leeds assets.
Maybe in drafts you might look for one if you're looking to rocket up your mini leagues. There might be some draft assets on the pile that you can maybe go towards. I'd say probably McGoldrick for me is probably the one if you're looking for Leeds, but I wouldn't go there for Sheffield United, but I probably wouldn't go for the away side. Dave, we'll move over to you for the next one. The biggest game probably on paper at the moment. Leicester and Manchester City, two top four sides going forward for the rest of the season. Who do you reckon will be the best assets for there? And I guess what we could call the Riyad Mahrez derby, if you will, between the Foxes and the Citizens. Who are you looking for?
That's a struggle this week, actually. I don't know, maybe a Mahrez or Gundogan's have been a bit out of form the last few weeks, so maybe not Gundogan, but maybe Mahrez.
I suppose you have got a lot to pick from. You've got an absolute heap to pick from both sides. So
what about the Aguero farewell tour?
That's sad because he's one of the Premier League icons. Obviously, one that I know me and Elliot have grown up with. He's been there since 2011. Yeah. So it's one of the best players that we've ever seen play in the Premier League. 10 years. Obviously, the game against QPR. Obviously, we all know synonymous. So it's going to be sad to see him go.
Jack knows that one more than anyone, I think, Ollie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of him because of that. However, he's a world-class player. I wonder if he's a hot property for these last final games, or do you not think he'll play much?
I think
he'll play a bit. I think he'll play a bit. So he might be one to look for. Might chip in with a few goals here and there. Obviously, we know what Aguero is about over the last 10 years. When he gets in front of goal, he usually scores. So if he gets out on the park for Manchester City, he'll probably find the back of the net. So he might be one to look for as an outside shout. But we'll have to wait and see there. If the Leicester-Manchester City game, though, isn't the biggest on paper, we've got a fair argument to say the next one down is Arsenal and Liverpool, two of the Premier League's traditional Big Six, clash at the Emirates. Elliot, we'll go to you for this one again. Who do you reckon from this tie then?
Diogo Jota, mate. I think he's the one that springs to mind for me. Back in the team for both Liverpool and Portugal recently, doing the business for both of them. Back amongst the goals for Portugal in the break. I think he scored 3 goals from 3 games or 2 goals from 3 games. So, he's back and firing, and he's cheap compared to most of their front three. And Salah and Mane have blanked for, I think, 4 or 5 game weeks now. Firmino's not doing it. So I think Jota's definitely my choice. And I think he'll be one that I'll be getting into my team.
And if we go over to you, obviously Liverpool haven't been too good since the turn of the year. They've lost to Burnley, which I obviously hated. Lots of teams like Brighton, Fulham. So they haven't had a great run as of late. Do you reckon Diogo Jota's return might spark something?
Yeah, look, most likely. I'm sure they've got a few people who can step up as required. Arsenal aren't exactly in a great form, so either. We'll see where we're going.
Might be one to look for, definitely in that regard. But Yeah, Liverpool need something. They need to be reinvigorated somewhat, but I'll have to see if that returning man in Diogo Jota can do that. Obviously done really well over the international break, but I'll have to see if that can translate to his club form. So Southampton and Burnley then is the next game. That'll kick off Sunday, and that's a bit of an interesting one. Obviously, I won't be looking towards Burnley. Definitely not. Not for me anyway. I haven't had a Burnley player in all season, which is obviously my law. But Jack, do you reckon any Burnley players might be of an option here? Possibly maybe a Nick Pope?
Yeah, possibly. Who scored that screamer the other week? Was it Dwight McNeil?
Dwight McNeil against Everton.
Yeah, I mean, listen, after that goal, he must be still pretty buzzing after that. So, an asset like him, maybe he must be like a bit of a differential, surely, to put in there. But yeah, Nick Pope, England's number one. Be a good
I'd
one
agree
to
there,
have.
by the way. I'd agree there. Even as a Blackburn fan, pains me to say he's our best goalkeeper and should be starting.
Yeah, listen, you haven't seen as many mistakes from him as what you have from, obviously, Pickford. But I mean, Pickford's been all right for England, to be fair, but Pope seems a lot more safer option, doesn't he? So yeah, listen, the game, sure, it's got a draw written all over it, but I presume Danny Ings is back as well, so he might be one to look out for as well.
Against his former club too.
Against his former team as well, yeah, that's it. So yeah, Ings to look out for, maybe like someone like Pope or a differential like Dwight McNeil, and if he can score another wonder, or he should have retired after that goal, maybe.
Well, I mean, just on the point that we make about Dwight McNeil, Elliot, we'll go over to you. Obviously, we've had a lot of senior international football, but we've also had a bit of junior international football as well. We had the under-21 Euros that's been going on. Obviously, England bundled out of that in the group stages. I think Dwight McNeil's played over that time as well. Do you reckon that'll be a hindrance to the Premier League and to the players in it, or do you reckon that won't affect the players too much?
Yeah, obviously it's going to affect them. If they've played 2 or 3 games this week, then they might be due a rest. But these are professional players at the end of the day, and their priority lies with their club most of the time. And managers will be telling international managers, what they want to do with them and stuff like that. I know Jose Mourinho, for one, keeps in contact with Gareth Southgate and tells him what he can and can't do with Harry Kane and what he'd like him to do, which is quite interesting. But no, I think someone like Dwight McNeil, who's a real spark for that Burnley team, which can just be boring and dry at times, most of the time anyway. So I would back him in to start, and players like Eze and stuff like that, I'd back for them to be playing football.
Yeah, we'll move on to Eberechi Eze for the Crystal Palace Everton game later on in the piece. But Elliot will stay with you because the next game down is one you're not too hopeful for in Newcastle United and Tottenham Hotspur at St James's Park on Tyneside. Do you see any hope for any Newcastle players here, or is it all one-way traffic with Tottenham assets this weekend?
I would list the whole Tottenham starting 11 as my FPL options before any Newcastle player, mate, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, we've both seen a lot of Newcastle this season. It's not been pretty, so there'll be the likes of Harry Kane. Heung-min Son, if he's fit, I'm not sure if he is, but that'll be a close one to see if he gets there for that game. But Harry Kane's probably the one. I think we said in your group chat before, triple captain Harry Kane if you've got him. So there's a bit of advice for you. It's not good when you're saying that as well. When you're the one saying that as a Newcastle fan, not optimistic whatsoever out of this game. But Jack, is there anyone you can see from Newcastle who might be able to return?
How good would it be if it was just a surprise Bruce performance here, masterclass? Bruce Ball at its finest, and he pulls out a draw or even a 1-0 win. Do you think is Bale going to play? Do you think he's back in? We need the guru here, don't we? Tell us.
He played for Wales, didn't he? Yesterday morning.
Played for Wales because he loves it so much, doesn't he? He loves playing with Wales, but I'm not too sure what to go there. Because obviously he's in my team, and I'm just thinking get him out or keep him in. What? I don't know. But against Newcastle, if Bale was playing, surely he'd bag. But yeah, no one from Newcastle from me. I'm not even going to name a player.
On the topic of game week 33, by the way, on the topic of Tottenham, they do have a blank. Both Tottenham and Manchester City have a blank game week 33 because of the Carabao Cup final. So that may be something that you might have to look for, looking slightly ahead. But let's live in the present for now, though, because we've got Aston Villa and Fulham up next. In the Midlands, Villa, obviously, they've done all right this season. Started really well, and they've tailed off a little bit against the Fulham side, looking to avoid relegation. Any assets here, lads, or you reckon this will be quite a mundane game? Maybe it could have another draw written over this one, to be fair as well.
Don't mind like Mings or Konsa, to be honest, I think, or Emi Martinez is the obvious choice that springs to mind if Grealish isn't back fit. I know he's back training, but back to start, I'm not too sure. It might be too early for him, but the defensive assets from Villa this season have usually been pretty solid and reliable for you. And Mings and Konsa are both massive aerial threats, and Fulham aren't always the biggest team. They do score a little bit from set pieces, but defensively from set pieces they aren't the best either. So I'd back Mings or Konsa, if they're getting up for a corner, to have a good chance at maybe getting on the end of something. So I'd go with one of them, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. In terms of both Jack and Statman as well, obviously this might be a game for the draft players out there. Obviously, there's not many stars if you discount the likes of Grealish and possibly Emi Martinez for Aston Villa in this game. Have you had any either Aston Villa or Fulham players? Who have you had, and do you reckon they'll perform in this game?
I've got Target at the moment and Martinez, so probably they're a couple. Assuming it's going to be a low-scoring, boring game, it'll be probably most of the points will come from the defensive end from Villa, I'd say.
And Jack, to you, have you had any players from either of the two sides, and do you reckon they could perform this weekend?
Yeah, I've got Target as well. Same as Statman. Target's been great this season, hasn't he? But my other one, I brought Traore and Bertrand Traore in ages ago, and he's done absolutely nothing for me. So it would be very nice for him to step up and perform if he does stay in the team, because he starts near enough every game, and he looks decent, but just doesn't do anything. But Traore would be nice.
I mean, it would, obviously, for him to return for you. He's not really done too much for you by way of goal contributions, but there's always time for that to change. 3 more games then to review. It starts at Old Trafford, the first of the final 3. Jack, as the resident Manchester United fan of the podcast, we'll go over to you for the game between Manchester United and Brighton and Hove Albion at Old Trafford. You're obviously looking for a win here, surely.
A win, and only one name, Bruno Fernandes. Get
Another
him.
penalty.
Captain.
Another penalty after the final whistle,
even
perhaps?
a triple captain shout, lads. Even a triple captain shout for Bruno this week. He'd be raring to go. Kick on. It's the business end of the season now. We've got to stay up in that top 2, and I think you've just got to kick on now. We're out. We put our second team out in the FA Cup because we're going to go for the Euro and the second and the runners-up spot. It seems so. Full steam ahead now. Win. No more goals after the time is finished, and we're just going to put it away. And Bruno is the man.
Of course, it was in that reverse fixture that Manchester United were awarded a penalty after the final whistle at the Amex. It seems like so long ago now.
Long ago, yeah.
Seems like so long. But, of course, that did happen, and Brighton fans won't be wanting a repeat. But if we go to the next game then, Everton Crystal Palace at Goodison Park. It's been an interesting one for Everton because they haven't been too good either recently, playing against a Crystal Palace side that have got some firepower. Elliot, you did talk about Eberechi Eze before. Do you reckon he'll be the one for Palace that might get them all 3 points in this game?
Yeah, look, he's definitely one of the players that's the spark in that Palace team. Again, we spoke about Burnley that being a bit dry and a bit boring. And at the heart of that Palace team, the midfield and stuff, it can be really dry and bland at times. So players like him and Zaha are the ones that will get their foot on the ball, make something happen, take a man on, stuff like that. So he's definitely a good shout, mate. But I don't know. I've just got a feeling that Everton at home to Crystal Palace, I can't see Palace taking much away from it. So I would go with an Everton asset, to be honest, mate.
And who do you reckon you'd look at?
Yeah, I think, Calvert-Lewin has been in good form. Obviously played against San Marino, didn't he? He scored twice. I know it's obviously San Marino and Crystal Palace aren't, but he just gets on the end of things, doesn't he? So I was going to say Digne as well. If you have Digne and Calvert-Lewin and you see that Calvert-Lewin headed goal from a Luca Digne cross, then you can thank me later, everybody.
It might be something we have to look out for this weekend. And Statman will go to you for the final game. Then it's the Wolverhampton Wanderers against West Ham United. Couple of teams that, maybe won't be pushing too high. I mean, obviously West Ham are pushing high, but they won't be pushing for the title or anything like that. And Wolves falling away a little bit. It's the West Ham assets though I'll be looking at. Likes of Jesse Lingard perhaps might be the one. Do you reckon any West Ham assets could be the ones to look at this weekend?
Yeah, definitely Lingard, and even sort of your defenders like Dawson, Creswell, because potentially there's a clean sheet on the offering, but yeah, that's who would I be going for.
And what about the Wolves assets at home this time? They've got the likes of possibly Adama Traore to maybe look at. They haven't had a real striking force since the injury to Raul Jimenez. So any Wolves players that you might think could return?
Look, potentially like a Neto or a Neves has always been there and thereabouts this season, scoring every now and again. Or you've got Cody in defence as well, who could be an option. But yeah, not a lot of love for Wolves.
No, it probably warrants that as well, to be fair, considering their rather subpar performances due to their lofty standards at the moment. But maybe some Wolves players might well return. Who knows? But that is a review of each fixture in depth for game week 30. Hopefully you've got something from that if you're listening out there, and hopefully our advice is of some use. So even though the Guru won't be joining us live this evening, we do have a video from him as usual. So we'll throw to that now. Some more advice. He's got his Scout 11. He's got his teams to watch. He's got his differentials and captain picks. So Matt, virtually, take it away.
Might just be a moment here, lads.
Unless not, maybe not.
Just had a bit of an issue here putting him on. So let me just see what we can do here. He sent it to me in a different format, so let's just see if I can change that.
What are we predicting then? What are we predicting from Matt this week? Because let's have a bit of a guessing game here. How many times will he mention Ilkay Gundogan in his Guru section? I think close to 1 million might be in the ballpark, I'd say.
This week might be the first week that Gundogan's not in.
Could be. He'll probably definitely mention his man Harry Kane.
Who plays for his team, Spurs?
Yeah, from his team, Spurs. I would definitely think he'll be in his captain picks. But I hope he gives us some insight on Son, because we're all a bit clueless as to whether he's fit or not, and same with Bale. So I'm hoping he's just going to give us the Spurs rundown.
I mean, we need one, don't we? Because there's a lot of Spurs players that are, in a bit of trouble on the injury front, and of course with the game week 33 not going ahead due to the Carabao Cup final, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So we really do need that Tottenham insight from our resident Tottenham fan.
And Harry Kane obviously just played this morning. Played the game beforehand, didn't he? Did he play? He didn't play against San Marino. Calvert-Lewin got most of that game with Watkins. So he's played a fair bit.
We're now ready for the Guru section. Look at that! He's outside. Look at him, getting a bit of sunshine, getting a bit of air. Here we go.
I think we're having some sound difficulties there, so what we might do is start him again.
We'll try again. Yeah, Dave made a comment in our private chat. Hard to comment when we don't know what he's saying. Second time lucky, did they say?
Possibly. Just bear with. Maybe we have a look at his Scout 11 instead. We'll do that one first, lads. So let's just go on here. Maybe we do transfers. Should we do transfers first, and I'll work this out for in the background, boys?
We very well could do transfers. We'll leave Jack to sort that out. So, Elliot, we'll start with you. But you're probably rolling over, so that doesn't buy us the time we need. But what are you looking at this week?
It's funny you say that, mate. I'm actually considering playing my wild card, but I don't think I'll be rolling over no matter what. I think Salah's got to go for me. Bale, not too keen on the Bale hype train. That lasted for about one game week, didn't it? And then everyone else has sort of decided to move on him now. So I'm thinking I'll just set up a good, solid set of 15 players so that I can play, interchange my players for the remaining 8. Is it 8 game weeks now? Is it 8 or 9?
Yeah, heading up to game week 30 now.
Yeah, so just be able to interchange them for the remainder of the season, which would be quite nice, I think, to have that in my artillery, because obviously that means I can play my bench boost one week if I fancy it, and I've obviously still got my triple captain as well. So I've got 3 chips left to play in for the remainder of the season.
That's definitely something you need to look at, because that wild card, it's a precious, precious chip. So you've got to play it at the right time. In terms of myself, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, to be quite honest with you, because obviously I've got Son who probably won't play, and I also wouldn't mind getting rid of, because 1, he's injured, and 2, there's the game in game week 33 that he's not playing in. So I'd like to get a full 11 for that week. Anyway, Patrick Bamford also injury cloud. So really not sure what I'm going to do there. In terms of the players I'm going to bring on, though, I'm actually going to bench Stuart Dallas this week, which might seem a little bit ludicrous with their game upcoming against Sheffield United at home. Probably a clean sheet there, but I've got 2 West Ham defenders against Wolves, and I've got 2 Manchester City defenders, and obviously Edison as well as that. So I'm thinking if they both get clean sheets, I'm putting my eggs in one basket. But I'm going to roll with that.
No 5 at the back.
I've looked at the 5 at the back, and I really want to get Dallas starting, but the rest of my team reads Bale, who've got Newcastle away, Mount, who's got West Brom at home, Fernandez, who's got Brighton at home, Son, Newcastle away, who I want to start in case he plays, and then Kane, obviously, start, and Bamford's got Sheffield United at home, obviously, as well, so I can't fit him in.
Yeah,
which is a really weird one.
You've got a very, very strong team there, mate. The only thing that I could think of maybe would be getting rid of Harry Kane, because he's going to blank this week, but that's all I can think of, mate.
Mate, your delusion is unparalleled.
I don't think you remember, mate. Last season, Newcastle away at Spurs, the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You captain Harry Kane, you put all of your faith in him, and Joel Linton comes away and scores the winner, mate.
It is at St James's Park, though, this one, I will remind you.
It doesn't matter, mate. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't, because you're still going to get battered. We're still trying to work out the Guru section in the meantime. We will look over a Scout 11 if we can't get the video to work, which is quite frustrating, but at least we've got something. Apparently, we're ready to go, so we'll go through our transfers very quickly first. Dave, have you got anything planned?
I've just come off playing my free hit last week. So, yeah, actually did all right with that. But I did make one transfer this week, which was, funnily enough, we mentioned him before, Target. I've actually taken him out and bought in the informed Christensen. So hopefully that's a good move. I always try and, swap out players who haven't got great form over the last few weeks, and then top them up with the ones at the top of the form ladder.
Definitely something interesting there for you to bring in. Obviously, we talked about Christensen being a Chelsea asset. They've been very defensively solid under the new manager, so that's probably something that will work out for you. How did your free hit go last week? Last game?
Yeah, well, I think I was only going to have about 4 players playing in the blank game week, so that's why I ended up playing the free hit, which I'd held off for just such a purpose. And how did I go? I think I got 66 points.
Not too bad.
So I wasn't too disappointed
really
with that. I think it was definitely worth it, because I probably would have struggled to get about 25 or 30 otherwise. So yeah, had sort of Lingard and Kane in there. So Kane was captain, had Lacazette, who all scored pretty well, Dunk, and Antonio. So unfortunately I had Lucas Moura on the bench as well, who didn't count though.
It's frustrating, but not a bad score nonetheless. And Jack, over to you then before we move on to the Guru. What moves are you making this week?
Well, I've currently got my 4-4-2 formation, sticking with the traditional old school formation. And transfer wise, just look at them Tottenham assets, not too sure what's going on. Probably checking with the Guru over the before the deadline and see what he's thinking. And I'll probably bring KDB back in, which was always my plan for one of them Tottenham assets. So I reckon probably Bale's going to go out and KDB back in. However, with that blank game week now from both, it's just a bit of just need to think ahead. and see how that looks. So it could be a rollover.
That excites me.
Elliot's absolutely loving life with that call. You're learning from him definitely, though, Jack. As it seems, I know you spoke of the Guru in your little section there, who we will now cross to, obviously remotely, and hopefully now the sound actually works.
That's it. I think we've got the sound, no video, so it'll just be the sound this time. So we'll see how we go.
Thanks, Ollie. And I'm going to start with my Game Week 30 differentials and ones to watch. It's going to begin with Kalichi Iheanacho, 2.8% ownership, 36 points in 3 games. But he's got a tough game against City this week, but I think if you get him in now, you've got a good set of fixtures for Leicester. Definitely a differential this week. Then we're going to go now with Chelsea. It's going to be Mendy, the goalkeeper, home to West Brom, 8.2% ownership. Really good differential there. Chelsea keeping a lot of clean sheets, which brings me on to my next asset, Reece James, 6.2% ownership, home to West Brom as well. Clean sheets, I think there, assists, set pieces, lots of value with him. Next one is going to be from my team Spurs, Lucas Moura, 2.2% ownership, away to Newcastle. I'm sorry, Elliot, but Newcastle are not on good form. He's had 4 returns in 6 games. I think he's a really good option this week. He's about 6.6 million as well, so really good value. Last one's going to be Luke Ayling, Leeds United, home to Sheffield United, 2.2% ownership, 4.4 million. That's an absolute bargain in that defence. Flies up that right-hand side. I think he's a really good differential in a game. You'd expect Leeds to come out with quite a few goals and a clean sheet as well. So that wraps up my differentials and ones to watch for Game Week 30.
So there we go, differentials and ones to watch done. Of course, there's a lot of love for the defenders there, excepting obviously Lucas Moura, who will have a field day. The defence then, is that something that we might as well look for, lads? Is it possibly a week to play 5 at the back, or do you reckon the points will come from attack as usual?
If you've got Chelsea assets, as the Guru was leading through there, I think, we've talked about it a lot since Tuchel's come in. They've looked a lot better defensively, Chelsea. They used to leak a lot of goals, and he's come in and he's changed that pretty quickly, and he's sort of transformed that Chelsea defence. So I think, if you can get 2 Chelsea assets in your team and your defence, you're on for a good handful of points there, mate.
And obviously the likes of Edouard Mendy were mentioned, and he might be one, especially in the goalkeeping department, to look for Chelsea. On to the next Guru section.
So we'll move on to my 3 teams. You guessed it, Leeds, home to Sheffield United, have to be in there. Goals galore in Fantasy League this season. Sheffield United, no manager, got absolutely thumped by Leicester last time out. So definitely going to be one of my 3 teams. I'm probably going to put them top of the 3 teams with the fact that they're playing Sheffield United, who are rock bottom. Next team, it's going to be Chelsea at home to West Brom. West Brom, another team in a relegation dogfight, looking like they're going to go down. Chelsea are on absolute fire at the moment, keeping clean sheets galore, and a nice home game for them. So definitely going to be in that 3 teams. And the last one, I'm sorry, Elliot, it's going to have to be Spurs away at Newcastle. Newcastle's form isn't great. Harry Kane looked good last time out away at Villa. There's potential for Son to be back. Lucas Moura's on form, and we might see Bale get some minutes as well. So that wraps up my 3 teams.
Yeah, we all predicted who the third one was going to be, didn't we? We all predicted who was going to say Tottenham, but so yeah, Tottenham and Leeds. We've talked about quite a lot, the both of those in this little section. We haven't really talked about Leeds as much this season, but if we're looking from Leeds, Ellen Road, who do you reckon the players are, lads, that we could be looking at?
Bamford.
Yeah, it's got to be Bamford, and then
Rafinha.
Dallas. All the favourites, surely. The core.
Oh my days. And even the likes of Chelsea as well got a lot of assets that we've been looking forward there as well. So definitely 3 teams that might provide a lot this upcoming game week. Moving on.
So we'll move on now to the captains. It's going to be my man Harry Kane as the number 1.
Bloody hell.
Against Newcastle. Bruno Fernandes in there, home to Brighton, good fixture on paper, always delivers a good for United. Another one we just mentioned, Leeds, it's got to be Patrick Bamford, scoring goals for fun this season, good fixture. Fourth one, Mason Mount, informed Chelsea, informed player, looked really good for England in the last few games as well. Gets himself on set pieces, gets quite a lot of shots and goals. So really liking Mason Mount. And the last one to wrap up our captains is Calvert-Lewin, Everton. Just missed out on the 3 teams this week against Crystal Palace, but home game. Obviously, he's been brilliant this season. He's getting a lot of goals. He's getting assists. Really involved. So I think as a differential captain as well, he could be one to watch. Didn't quite make the curveball. The curveball this week is going to be a man that usually would be a kind of a number 1-2 pick for a captain option, but he's been injured. It's Jack Grealish, home to Fulham. Really good fixture, I think, for Villa. Potential for goals, assists, real big differential. And I think him coming back in that Villa side will give him a lot of energy, and there's chances there for him. May potentially be back on penalties as well. Not too sure, but definitely fits the bill for a curveball this week. So that wraps up my Game Week 30 Guru section. And now it's on to you boys, Ollie, Elliot, and Jack, to discuss the Scout 11.
Once again, Dave's slightly been neglected there. I think it was a surprise inclusion, the late change for the podcast this week. But I suppose we'll have a quick look at this Scout 11 before we do wrap this all up then. But in terms of the captain picks, interesting to see Grealish. Obviously, the reasons why are rather obvious, which were explicitly made as well, to see Grealish in the curveball captain. But do you reckon he'll play, lads? Have we got any news out of Aston Villa or any news on social media as whether the Grealish will actually play?
I think Aston Villa's social media team are on absolute full lockdown of revealing anything about fantasy from now on.
True.
Mate. I think them out of everyone are not going to reveal anything. So I don't think you'll get much out of him. All I've seen is a picture of him back in training the other day for the first time. So that's all we have to go off at the minute, I think.
It's going to be interesting to see if he can play. Obviously, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, just before we bring up the scout section, scored. Obviously, we talked about against San Marino, got a double. So whether he can translate his form from the blue away kit of England to the blue home kit of Everton, we will have to see. So here is the Guru Scout 11. Of course, he's got Stuart Dallas in there, who I'll be benching this week. So quite interesting to see that there. Got a back 3 comprising of Dallas, Shaw and Rudiger. Midfield 4 of Rafinha, Mount, Fernandes and Lucas Moura. And a front 3 of Bamford, Kane and Calvert-Lewin with Mendy in goal. Lads, what do we think?
It's a really nice looking team, to be fair, isn't it? A lot of good informed players, a lot of favourites from this year's FPL, with obviously just the addition of Rudiger coming in and Lucas Moura. But all good players, Calvert-Lewin banging in on the international break, as well as Kane. Mason Mount flying. Solid Bruno, Luke Shaw flying. You say you've benched Dallas?
I have benched Dallas, yeah. Yeah, I have benched Dallas.
You just can't fit him in, can you? Just can't fit him in this week.
No.
Team's too strong.
That's the way. But I mean, the Guru has fit him in here. Dave, what do you think? Obviously, we've got 9 players playing at home, and the only 2 that are playing away. Very good reason to have them in, which we've talked about a lot. So we won't mention that just for Elliot's sake. But Statman, what do you think?
I think he's definitely stacked his team full of teams that are definitely favourites to win by a few goals. So, a lot of one-sided games he's picked, and he's obviously picked the side of the teams that are expected to win in nearly all of those positions. So, not too many surprises in there. But yeah, he's going for a big score this week if all those results come off, I think.
And Elliot, over to you then, just to conclude. He's got that armband on Harry Kane. Obviously, as a Newcastle fan, you're probably the worst on the panel to be asking because of your lack of impartiality here. But would you advise changing that, or do you reckon the armband should stay on Prince Harry Kane?
Mate, before in the WhatsApp group, I said I've contemplated triple captaining him. I've got absolutely no trouble with realising that we're going to get beat. So triple captaining people. I did it with Salah last season when he played us, and he managed to do the business. Did it with Salah the year before as well, away at Anfield, and he managed to do the business. So it might be on for the 3-peat, mate, but I think Kane or Bruno are the obvious choices, but I would be slapping it on the Guru's man, Harry Kane, from his team Spurs this week.
I reckon I'll be doing the same in my team moving forward, especially for this game week as well. So that is the Guru section and Scout 11 done. And with that, the podcast is also done. So, definitely a slightly shorter one this week, but hopefully we've given you a lot to look forward to for Game Week 30 and the return of club football. So, just to finish, Elliot, what are you looking forward to this week? And do you reckon you're on for a high score?
If I keep Harry Kane captain, mate, then I'm definitely on for a high score. But yeah, not looking forward to too much this week. I think the Leeds assets, I've got 3 of them this week: Rafinha, Dallas, and Bamford. So I'm hoping for a big score from them 3. I'm
Nice.
expecting big things from them. So fingers crossed.
We'll have to see if this can all come true. Thanks to Statman Dave for coming back on the podcast for the first time in what feels like forever. And to Jack, as usual, for providing the good insight. But the podcast is concluded, as I say. Hope all your FPL dreams come true this weekend. Have a great Easter, and we'll see you next week for the next podcast. Bye for now.